Hello everyone, this side Manish Kuliani. This is my second video on the topic of corporate finance, also known as financial management. This video is useful for MBA students as well as MCOM, also for all those who are preparing of UGC NET management program. In this video, I will cover all the aspects of financial management. So let's start with the meaning of financial management. Before discussing the meaning of financial management, firstly I will discuss the meaning of finance. Most of the people take the meaning of finance means coins, paper note, currency, but that's not the real meaning of finance. Finance simply means just arrangement of money at the time of requirement. In other words, you can say in simple language, it is defined as the provision of money at the time when it is required, it is needed. As you know, finance is the lifeblood of any business, whether your business is small or big. You need finance to carry on your, if you want to expand your operation, definitely you need finance. That's what called, rightly said, it is the lifeblood of any business. So finance simply means just arrangement of money at the time of requirement. That's called finance. Now next is meaning of financial management. Meaning of financial management can be studied under two head. As per traditional approach, you can say in narrow sense. As per modern approach, in other words, you can say in broad sense. As per traditional approach, financial management simply means just only arrangement of money. It doesn't consider effective utilization of money, means doesn't consider where you have to put that fund. It is out of scope in traditional approach. So that's why it's called narrow sense meaning. According to this approach, under this approach, the role of financial management was limited to the procurement of funds on suitable terms. Means just you have to arrange money, just you have to search the sources of finance from where you raise money. Effective utilization does not consider. That's why it's called narrow sense. As per modern approach, as per broad sense, in broad sense you can say financial management simply means not only just arrangement of money but effective utilization of money also considers. Means according to modern approach, the finance function covers both acquisition of funds as well as their effective utilization. So this approach covers both acquisition of fund as well as effective utilization of fund. That's the real meaning of financial management. So in the modern approach, the financial management is responsible for taking the three decisions. One is the financial decision, means just identify the sources of finance from where you raise your money. Second, the investment decision, that's also known as capital busting decision, means, or as well as working capital decision, means you have to take decision related to investment in long term asset or short term assets. And third one is dividend policy decision. In my last video, I had explained the meaning of dividend policy decision, means how much part of the profit should be retained and how much should be distributed among your shareholders. So financial management simply means not only just arrangement of money, not only identify the sources of finance, also consider effective utilization of funds. Clear? So next is objectives of financial management. There are mainly two objectives of financial management. One is profit maximization, second one is wealth maximization. Now what is profit maximization objective? Profit maximization objective simply means, as per name suggests, according to this approach, all activities which increase profits should be undertaken, which decrease profit should be avoided. Means in other words, you can say select those assets, project decisions which are profitable for your firm and reject those which are not. So that's the only parameter as per profit maximization approach. Means undertake only those activities which increases your profit and ignore all those activities which decrease your profit. So that's the meaning of profit maximization approach. Second one is wealth maximization approach. Now what is wealth maximization approach? First of all, wealth maximization approach, also known as net present value maximization approach. This approach is now universal accepted as appropriate principle for making financial decision. Reason being, this approach removes all the limitation of profit maximization approach. That's why it's a universal accepted approach. Now the question arises in your mind, what's the limitation in profit maximization approach? First limitation is ambiguous. Ambiguous simply means The term profit is vague and ambiguous, means not clear. That is very confusing. Means as you know, different people take different meaning of term profit. For example, for instance, you can take profit may be short term or long term. It may be before tax, after tax. It may be total profit, rate of profit. Similarly, it may be return on total capital employed, on total assets, shareholder fund. So the term profit is not clear which profit you have to take in profit maximization approach. So that's the main limitation. The term profit is vague and confusing. It's not clear. Second limitation, ignores the time value of money. In my first video, I had explained the meaning of time value of money. As you know, time value of money is value of 1 rupee at present is greater than the value of same rupee received after 1 year. Now this approach, means profit maximization approach, ignores the time value of money. It does not make a difference between profit earned over the different year. It ignores the fact the value of 1 rupee is greater than the value of rupee received after 1 year. So profit maximization approach ignores the time value of money as well as ignores risk factor, reason being future is uncertain. So it removes all the limitation of profit maximization approach. That's why it's universal accepted approach. Plus this approach is more shareholder oriented. Profit maximization approach is company oriented, means as per the profit maximization approach, they select only those assets, those projects which are profitable and reject all those which are not. But as per maximization approach, you focus on the shareholders wealth. Means as per this approach, select all those assets, select all those projects which are profitable for the, which increases the income of shareholder, which increases the wealth of shareholder. So that's a wealth maximization approach. Clear? Now what is the difference between profit maximization approach and wealth maximization approach? Now as you know, one thing keep in mind, wealth maximization approach is superior to profit maximization approach. Keep in mind this thing. Wealth maximization approach also always consider time value of money, and as I told you in the limitation of profit maximization, it does not consider time value of money. Second, profit maximization approach ignores risk factor related to uncertainty, but wealth maximization approach consider risk factor also. Plus profit maximization approach is company oriented, so it does not consider the effect of dividend policy decision on market price of share. But wealth maximization approach, as per the wealth maximization approach, focus only those assets, those proposal which increases shareholder income. So definitely it takes into the account of effect of dividend policy on market price of share. Under profit maximization approach, the term profit is not clear, means it does not differentiate between the short term profit, long term profit, after tax profit, before tax profit. But under wealth maximization approach, it defined the different strategies for long term profit as well as short term profit. So that's the basic difference between profit maximization and wealth maximization. Now next topic is cost of capital. Now what is cost of capital? As per the name suggests, means rate of capital, price of capital. That's the meaning of cost of capital. First of all, cost of capital simply means, it is also known as cut-off rate, target rate. These are the other meaning of cost of capital. So cost of capital simply known as cut-off rate, target rate, hurdle rate, minimum rate of return. Now what's the meaning of cost of capital? Cost of capital simply means it is a minimum rate of return expected by its investor while invested money in any project. Means minimum rate of return expected by its investors. Suppose if you want invest some money in shares, definitely you will expect some dividend, rate of dividend. So that's called cost of capital. Means minimum rate of return expected by investor while invest money in any particular fund. So that's the meaning of cost of capital as per investor approach. But as per company approach, simply means, in other words, you can say cost of obtaining the fund. Suppose if you arrange fund from bank loan, definitely you have to pay interest on bank loan. Though the cost of bank loan is, that's called interest. If you arrange money through shares, then you have to pay dividend on shares. So that the cost of shares in form of dividend that you're supposed to pay. So cost of capital simply means minimum rate of return expected by investor, or in other words you can say cost of obtaining the fund, or in simple language the average rate of return that the investor in a firm expect for investing fund in the firm. So that's the meaning of cost of capital. Now, the importance of cost of capital. First, helpful in capital busting decision. On the basis of cost of capital, you take your decision related to capital busting. Now the question arises, what is capital busting decision? Capital busting is a process of decision making regarding investment of funds in long term projects of the company. Means it doesn't consider short term investment decision, that's called working capital decision. Working capital decision means a decision regarding investment in short term asset, but capital busting decision regarding investment in short term or long term assets means it is a process of a decision regarding investment in long term asset ki whether we have to invest or not. So that decision is known as capital busting decision. So the concept of cost of capital is very useful in making capital busting decision, because as you know, cost of capital is a minimum required rate of return on an investment project. Suppose if you invest some particular fund in particular asset, you expect some return, so definitely you will consider your cost of capital. So that's why it's helpful taking capital busting decisions. Second one is capital structure decision. Now what is capital structure? Capital structure simply means decision regarding borrowed fund as well as ownership fund. Means how much fund should be raised from borrowed fund. Borrowed fund means outside liabilities. And how much should be raised from equity fund. Equity means ownership fund. So means decision regarding different sources of capital like equity capital, retained earning, preference capital, debt capital. Means capital structure of a company consists of different sources of capital, but under capital structure decision you have to consider only long-term sources of finance. So the concept of cost of capital plays a imperative role in designing the capital structure of company. Reason being, every cost of different sources different from suppose the rate of dividend on equity share is totally different from rate of dividend on preference share. Same if rate of interest on debenture is 10%, maybe the rate of dividend is 20%. So definitely which source is cheaper, you arrange fund from that source. So that's why it helpful in designing the capital structure decision ki which source or which cost of capital is minimum, definitely you arrange money from that source of capital. Third one is dividend policy decision. Ki on the basis of cost of capital, on the concept of cost of capital, you will make some other financial decision like dividend policy decision, right issue decision, working capital decision, capitalization of profit decision. Means on the basis of cost of capital you take your decision ki whether you have to distribute your return, distribute your profit among your shareholders or not, or either you have to retain all profit in your business. Then efficiency of top management. Definitely concept of cost of capital can be used to evaluate the financial efficiency of top management. Reason being, lower the actual cost of capital, better is the financial performance of management of the firm. Then comparative analysis of various sources of finance. Cost of capital to be raised from various sources, that goes on changing from time to time. So definitely you will choose that source of finance which is cheaper compared to another source of finance. So definitely on the basis of this you can easily do your comparative analysis of various sources of finance. Now what is weighted average cost of capital? Now what is weighted average cost of capital? Weighted average cost of capital simply means it is a calculation of firm cost of capital in which each category of capital is proportionally weighted. Means as per weighted cost of, So weighted cost of capital, you can say it is also known as composite cost or overall cost. As you know, capital structure, I explained earlier, capital structure of company consists of different sources of capital. So cost of these different sources of capital is also calculated by different methods. So after the calculation of cost of capital of these different sources of capital, a practical difficulty arises as to what is the overall capital structure of a firm. So in order to resolve this problem, the financial manager developed the concept of weighted average cost of capital. That's why it's called composite cost or average cost. Reason being, under this case, you have to take average, means you have to assign weights. So there are mainly two methods for assigning weights. One is book value weight, second one is market value weight. Book value weight simply means these weights are calculated from the values taken from the balance sheet, and the market value weight, as per the market value scheme of weighting, the weights of different sources of finance are assigned on the basis of market value, means what the market value of equity share presently in market, what the market value in preference share, debentures. So under market value weight, you assign weights on the basis of their market values. Under book value weights, you assign values on the basis of balance sheet. Clear? Now next one is capital structure. Now what is capital structure? I explained earlier, capital structure simply means it refers to the proportion between the various long-term sources of finance in the total capital of firm. And the major sources of long-term finance include ownership fund, also known as proprietor fund, and borrowed fund. Borrowed fund means outside fund. So proprietor fund means including your equity capital, retain earning, preference capital, reserve and surplus. Borrowed fund includes long-term debts like loans from financial institution, loan from banks whose majority period is more than 1 year, debentures. So in capital structure decision, it is determined at what should be the proportion of each of the above sources of finance in total capital of firm. Means you have to decide how much finance is to be raised from each of these sources. So that's the meaning of capital structure. Now the various factors that affects the decision of capital structure means how much fund should be raised from equity capital, means ownership fund, and how much should be raised from borrowed fund. So these are the some factor. On the basis of this factor, you take your decision if we should arrange funds from borrowed fund or ownership fund. First factor is size of the firm. This is one of the main factor that affects your capital structure decision. This point can be classified under three heads: small size firm, medium size firm, large size firm. Now small size firm, usually small size firm depend upon own capital or retained earning for their long term fund. Reason being, these firms face max of the time difficulties raising long term firms. If they are able to raise, suppose, some long term loan, definitely they will be available at a high rate of interest or also on inconvenient terms. So they don't have any option to raise money because they have don't have any security to mortgage. So definitely they have to dependent upon their own resources. So small size firm always use ownership fund. It don't have any option to avail long term sources because they don't have any big land, or you can say asset, for security. So it is quite difficult for small companies to raise share capital. So definitely he has only one option, that is use money. That money is known as ownership fund. If firm is large size firm, definitely he can raise long term loans at a competitive cheaper rate on easy terms. Also issue share capital because his financial position is very good. He can also issue equity shares, preference share, debentures to the public. So they use borrowed fund. So on the basis of size of firm, if firm size is small, definitely firm should use ownership fund. If firm size is large, he can use borrowed fund as well as ownership fund. Then second point is stability of earning. If firm earning is stable, if your earning is not fluctuate, then definitely you should use borrowed fund, because reason being you can pay easily interest to your outside liabilities, your outside creditors. But if firm earning is not a regular, not it fluctuates time to time, then definitely you should use ownership fund, because sometimes it is not possible to pay interest to outside party. So if your earning is stable, use more borrowed fund. If your earning is not stable, then use ownership fund. Then third point is degree of competition. If there's a keen competition in an industry, definitely then your income will fluctuate. So you should use equity fund, means ownership fund. If there's a no competition, if suppose uh, is there's a monopoly in your market, then definitely you use your income is stable, because you are in monopoly situation, then you use borrowed fund. Then fourth point is stage of life cycle of the firm. Suppose if firm is in initial stage, then chances of its failure would be high. Plus, in initial stage, you have to incur more expenses on advertising, sale, promotion, person selling. Then definitely you use ownership fund, equity capital. You should avoid the use of long-term loans. But if your firm grows and reach maturity stage, then definitely you arrange borrowed fund. Then you should use borrowed fund. Interest coverage ratio. If your interest coverage ratio is good, the formula of interest coverage ratio is profit before interest and income taxes divided by fixed interest charges. Fixed interest charges means those obligations that you have to pay, whether from on profit or loss, like interest on loan, interest on debentures. So that's called fixed interest charges. So by this formula, by using this formula, you can easily calculate interest coverage ratio. If your interest coverage ratio is good, it means you can easily pay interest, then definitely you should use borrowed fund. But if your interest coverage ratio is poor, then you don't have any other option, you should use ownership fund. Next point is cash flow ability of firm. Now in this case you have to consider your cash inflows and outflows. If your inflows are more than inflow means cash is coming in your organization. If your inflow is more than outflow, it means you can easily pay interest, then you should use more borrowed fund. If your cash outflow is more than inflow, means your payment is more than receipt, then definitely you should use more equity capital. Next one is retaining control. It is one of the main factor that affects your capital decision. If equity shareholder wants to retain control in his own hand, then definitely you should use more debentures, more ownership fund. If you don't want to retain control in your own hand, then use equity capital. Next one is capital market condition. As you know, capital market condition go on changing from time to time. Sometimes there's a recession, boom. If recession is going in economy, if the share market is depressed, then company should not issue equity capital. Then definitely you should use debentures. You should issue debentures, then more dependent on borrowed fund. If company if boom is going in a market, then your income is stable, so then you should use equity capital. Next one is credit standing of the firm. This is also one of the main factor. Credit standing of the firm is goodwill of your firm. Firms which enjoy high credit rating from the viewpoint of your investor, lenders, your banker in the capital market. So you are in an you are in means you are in position to raise finance on easy terms. So definitely you should use borrowed fund. If your capital credit standing is not so good, your goodwill is poor, then you don't have any other option, so you should use equity fund. Then last point, trading on equity. Trading on equity simply means when firm is in trading or equity situation, when your rate of return is more than rate of dividend or rate of interest, on that point firm is in situation on trading on equity. Trading on equity simply means when firm rate of return is more than cost of capital. Means when firm rate of return is more than rate of dividend on shares, rate on interest on debentures, on that point you can say our firm is on trading on equity position. So these are the some factor. On the basis of these factor you take your decision whether you should raise money from equity capital or borrowed fund. Then theories of capital structure. There are mainly 4 theories of capital structure. Now what is capital structure theories? Capital structure theory seek to explain the relationship between capital structure decision and market value of firm. Means there are conflicting opinions regarding whether or not capital structure decision affect the valuation of firm. Some authors say capital structure decision affect the valuation of firm, or some authors says it does not affect, it doesn't depend upon the capital structure decision. Valuation of firm depends upon the goodwill of your firm, credit standing of your firm, last year profitability of your firm, your earning of your firm. It does not affect your capital structure is 60-40, 40-60, 50-50, doesn't matter. So there are main 4 approaches: net income approach, net operating income approach, traditional approach, approach. So first and third approach, out of these theory, net income approach and traditional approach strongly support the viewpoint that there is a relationship between capital structure of firm and its market value. Yes, capital structure decision affects your valuation of firm, but second approach, net operating income approach, and Modilani and Miller approach, they said there is a no relationship between capital structure decision and valuation of firm. So let's start with the first theory, net income approach. Now what is net income approach? According to net income approach, first of all, this approach is suggested by Durand, given by Durand. As per this approach, capital structure decision is relevant for the valuation of firm. It means, according to this approach, if the ratio of debt to equity is increased, the cost of capital will decline. Means as per this approach, if you use more and more debt capital, definitely your cost of capital will decline, or while the value of firm as well as the market price of equity share will increase. So there are mainly 4 assumptions of this theory. First assumption is the cost of debt is lower than the cost of equity. Definitely the cost of debenture, the rate of interest on debenture is cheaper than rate of dividend on equity share. That's the assumption. Second, the risk perception of investor is not changed by the use of debt capital. Means on debt you have to pay interest whether firm earns profit or loss. So it is based on one assumption, the risk perception of the investor is not changed. Means investors are risk taker, they don't bother whether you are using more and more debt. Third is there is no corporate tax, personal taxes prevail in the market. And fourth is investor is rational. So according to this approach, as you increase more or more debt capital as compared to equity capital, your overall cost will decline. So explain with the help of this diagram. As you know, on O-axis it's shown on degree of leverage, and y-axis cost of capital. Now KE stands for cost of capital, first of all denoted by K. KE stands for cost of equity, KD stands for cost of debt, and KO stands for overall cost of capital. As per this approach, as you increase more or more debt capital, as you know, the graph of KO, so in this diagram you can see, as the degree of leverage increases, the cost of capital, means your KO, decreases and approaches the cost of debt, KD. But one thing keep in mind, it can't touch KD, as there can't be any firm that use old debt capital. So under this case, the optimum capital structure is when at which KO is nearest to KD. So at which the proportion of equity capital is insignificant. So at this level, the firm overall cost of capital would be lowest, and market value of firm and market value per share is highest. So at this, this point is known as your optimum point, optimum capital structure, because at this point your KO overall cost is cost of capital is minimum. So as per this approach, as you increases more or more debt capital, that's why KO आपका cost of capital नीचे जा रही है. But it never touches KD because ऐसी कोई firm नहीं होती which uses 100% debt capital. In every firm it consists of ownership fund as well as debt capital, so it never touches KD. Clear? Now second approach, net operating income approach. First of all, this approach is also given by Durand. This is diametrical opposite to net income approach, means just opposite to net income approach. Net income approach says that there is a relationship between capital structure and valuation of firm. This approach said capital structure decision does not affect the valuation of firm. If your capital structure decision is 50-50, means you use 50% debt capital, 50% equity capital. Either you use 60% debt capital, 40% equity, or 40-60, 37. It does not affect your valuation of firm. Means as per this approach, the overall cost of capital would remain same whether the debt equity mix is 50-50, 30-70, 60-40, and assumptions are all same, as you have studied in net income approach. So this approach says the valuation of firm depends upon goodwill of firm, your stability of earning, your profitability of earning, your cash flow position, your credit standing of your firm. सो इस पे गुडविल इफेक्ट करती है रादर देन योर कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर डिसीजन. दैट इज योर पर्सनल डिसीजन कि आप कहाँ से कैपिटल ले रहे हो. उसको कोई किसी इन्वेस्टर को, किसी लैंडर को, किसी बैंकर को कभी भी बॉदर नहीं करेगा कि वेदर योर कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर इज 30-40, 70-30. इनफैक्ट दे ऑल विल सी योर प्रॉफिट, योर अर्निंग, स्टेबिलिटी ऑफ अर्निंग, योर मार्केट पोजिशन, योर क्रेडिट स्टैंडिंग, योर गुडविल. सो इन पे इफेक्ट करता है. सो एज यू सी द डायग्राम, at this case, if you increase your cost of equity, this one is your cost of equity, your capital, overall cost of capital is constant. It does not affect by the use of debenture or equity, it remain constant. So that's the meaning of net operating income approach. Now third approach, traditional approach. Now traditional approach, it's a midway. You can say establish a compromise or midway between the net income approach and net operating income approach. Means it resembles the net income approach and it also agree with the net operating income approach. So it maintain a balance between these previous two approaches. So the traditional approach is divided into three stages. First stage, in the first stage it says as you increase more or more debt capital, definitely your cost of capital will decrease, but up to certain limit. Second stage says after once a firm has reached a certain level, so it does not matter you increases your debt capital or equity capital. It doesn't matter your valuation of firm, your cost of capital remain constant. In third stage, if you increase your debenture capital up to certain limit, after the certain limit, definitely कि further increase in debt capital will lead to increase in overall cost of capital, or definitely it will reduce the valuation of firm. So the diagram of this, as you can see, at first stage is your KU. As you increase more or more debt capital, your KU decreases. This one is the second stage. At this stage, overall cost of capital is constant, but still you are using more and more debt. Definitely risk perception of investors also changes. Definitely they will demand more rate of dividend, so overall all cost will be increased. So this one is a third stage. Now fourth stage, approach. Approach simply means this approach can be studied under two heads: when taxes are ignored or when taxes are considered. If taxes are ignored, means when there is no corporate taxes, then it is assembled to a second approach, explain net operating income approach. Or when taxes are considered, it is assembled to first approach, then explain net income approach. Clear? These are some assumption of a Modigliani-Miller approach. So, first assumption is capital market capital markets are perfect. Capital markets are perfect means the investors are free to buy and sell securities. There are no transaction cost. All investors behave rationally. Information is perfect. A second assumption is homogeneous risk classes of firm. कि firm can be grouped into homogeneous risk classes means every firm share the identical risk characteristics. Then 100% payout ratio means dividend payout ratio is 100%. All earnings are distributed to a shareholder. No corporate taxes. There are no corporate taxes. And the rate of investment, the cutoff rate of investment in a firm is the capitalization rate. Now, internal source of finance. Internal source of finance simply means finance which is raised internally through your retain or earning. Means plugging back of your profit, your personal saving, when you use your personal saving, when you sell your unwanted assets, when you purchase any asset on lease back, on lease. So that's called internal source of finance. Means arrange all the finance internally by using retained earning, by using plugging back of profit. So these are the meaning of internal sources of finance. Next one is